Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. It's funny, I was thinking about something the other day. I wanted to get your take on it.
Okay, shoot.
Would you rather, okay, like imagine this. Would you rather be like super rich, have all the money in the world,
Okay.
but you're totally clueless, like you don't really know anything about the world?
Mm-hmm.
Or would you rather be, I don't know, wise, but like struggling to make ends meet?
That's a good one.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we're going to be diving into today. We've got this article here, and it's all about how our society these days seems to value wealth way more than wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, you see that everywhere, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like the whole thing about how society is obsessed with like showing off how rich you are.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like nobody cares if you're actually smart or not.
Totally.
It's all about appearances, you know what I mean?
It's all about the enneagram.
Exactly, like on
Yeah.
social media, right?
Yeah, yeah.
You post a picture of your new car.
Bam. A million likes.
Yeah. Exactly. But you try to post about like some complex scientific idea.
So,
Nobody cares.
and it makes you wonder, right?
Yeah, it's a little disheartening.
Like, have you noticed that kind of trend in your own life too? Where it's like appearances are more important than actual substance.
Oh, definitely. I think we all have to some extent, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, this article, it even talks about how even higher education, like, yeah, it's great to go to college and all,
Of course.
but it doesn't automatically make you wise.
Right.
Like, you can have all the degrees in the world, but if you don't actually understand what you've learned or how to think critically.
What's the point?
Exactly.
It's just a piece of paper.
That's what the article is getting at.
And there's this one part that really jumped out at me. They talk about how the average IQ scores
Oh, yeah, yeah.
among college students have actually been going down, especially in North America.
It's pretty wild.
It really makes you think, right?
Yeah, like, are we actually getting less intelligent as a society?
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Or is it something else?
Right, right. Like maybe it's not that we're getting dumber,
Maybe.
but just that the way we're learning and teaching is changing.
It could be the way we're teaching, right?
Well,
Or maybe it's all the technology
oh, the screens. Yeah.
and how it's affecting our attention spans.
It's like we can't focus for more than 5 minutes.
Exactly. I mean, who even reads books anymore?
Right.
Everyone just wants the quick and easy answer.
It's scary to think about.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
But okay, this article also goes on to talk about, remember that whole trust the science thing?
Oh, yeah, how could I forget?
It was everywhere.
Everywhere you looked.
And they basically say that maybe a more honest slogan would have been follow the money.
Ooh, that's spicy.
Right. Because they're arguing that sometimes
Just sometimes.
there can be like conflicts of interest when money gets involved in science.
Oh, for sure.
And it's like, it makes you wonder if you can always trust what you're reading,
Right. You got to be skeptical.
especially these days.
Exactly. Like, think about all the stuff that's happened recently,
Yeah.
with the way certain scientific findings were presented.
Mm.
Do you think maybe, just maybe, money might have played a role in how that all went down?
It's definitely something to think about.
Oh, for sure.
And this whole thing about doing research, too.
Yeah, what about that?
They kind of poke fun at the idea that, like, hopping on Google for 5 minutes makes you some kind of expert.
Oh, totally. Like, oh, I Googled it, so I know everything now.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
But, I mean, haven't we all kind of fallen into that trap?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, you search something and suddenly you're like, I'm basically a doctor now.
I diagnosed myself online.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this article really emphasizes that there's a huge difference
A huge difference.
between doing a quick search online and actually conducting, real scientific research.
Oh, 100%.
Like with peer review and data analysis and all that.
It's a whole different ballgame.
And they use this really interesting story. It's from Norse mythology about the god Odin.
Odin.
Yeah, and he was known for being like super into knowledge and wisdom.
Okay.
And so the story goes that he actually like sacrificed himself.
Whoa, hold on. Sacrificed himself.
Yeah, he hung himself from the world tree. It was called Yggdrasil.
Wow, intense.
I know, right?
Uh.
And it was all to gain access to these things called runes.
Runes. What are those?
They were like these ancient symbols that were supposed to hold all this like deep wisdom and knowledge.
So he literally died for knowledge.
That's the myth.
That's dedication.
Right. And the article uses this story as kind of a metaphor.
I see, yeah.
Like they're saying that true wisdom doesn't come easy.
Makes sense.
It takes effort. And sometimes you even have to make like tough choices or sacrifices to get there.
That's deep.
Right. And so it makes you think like, what are the sacrifices that people make today
Ooh, good question.
to try to gain knowledge and wisdom?
Yeah, I like that.
Like maybe it's giving up free time to study or something.
Maybe.
Or
Yeah.
like being willing to challenge your own beliefs, even if it's uncomfortable.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
And, I think that's what this article is really getting at, is this idea that we need to start recognizing the real value of wisdom,
Absolutely.
especially in a world that's so focused on just like superficial wealth.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, which one is really going to make you happier?
Right. Like which one is going to lead to a more fulfilling life?
It's like that saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right?
Right. Yeah.
This article is kind of saying that. We've got all this information out there. Like,
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
Internet.
It's like a fire hose.
Right.
But people aren't really thirsty for wisdom.
Yeah. It's like we're surrounded by all this amazing food,
Mhm.
but we just keep reaching for the junk food,
Exactly. We go for the quick fix, the easy dopamine hit.
The clickbait headlines.
Yeah, instead of actually taking the time to learn and grow.
So is that like the main problem then?
Yeah.
That people just aren't interested in wisdom anymore?
Well, the article suggests that it's more complicated than that. It's not just that people aren't interested.
Yeah.
It's that our society, our culture doesn't really value it.
So like it's almost like it's working against us.
Exactly. Like we're constantly bombarded with messages that tell us that wealth is the most important thing.
Yeah, that's true.
That success is measured by how much money you have.
The cars, the houses.
This stuff. Yeah.
And so like what happens then if we keep going down this road?
Well, the article paints a pretty grim picture.
Oh no.
It argues that we risk becoming like a society of sheep, basically.
Oh wow.
People who are easily manipulated because they don't know how to think for themselves.
Okay, that's scary.
Yeah, and a society that's incapable of solving complex
I
problems.
mean, they just don't have the wisdom to know what to do.
Right, because they haven't developed those critical thinking skills.
So then, like, what's the alternative? What would a society that actually values wisdom look like?
Well, imagine a world where people are encouraged to think critically, to question everything, to be open to new ideas, even if they're challenging.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Instead of being obsessed with money and possessions,
Right.
people would be focused on, like, personal growth, on learning new things.
And, like, actually contributing to society in a meaningful way.
Exactly. And education would be seen as more than just, a way to get a good job.
Oh, so it wouldn't be just about, like, getting that piece of paper, that degree.
Right. It would be about, like, developing your mind, expanding your horizons.
Yeah, becoming a well-rounded person.
And who knows, maybe in that kind of society, we could actually solve some of the big problems we're facing.
The climate crisis, poverty, all that.
Exactly. Like, imagine what we could accomplish if we all had a little more wisdom.
And so how do we get there?
Yeah.
How do we shift from a society obsessed with wealth to one that values wisdom?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Literally.
But the article does offer some food for thought.
Okay, what is
They
it?
bring it back to that question we started with.
Oh, about being rich but ignorant or poor but wise.
Yep, they ask, would you rather be rich but ignorant or poor but wise?
And that's like the big takeaway.
It's not about judging anyone for their choices, right?
Okay, yeah.
It's about encouraging all of us to think about what really matters.
Like what actually brings us happiness and fulfillment.
And for them, it seems like the answer is pretty clear.
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Yeah, it's like you always hear people say you can't take it with you.
Right.
But the things you learn, the wisdom you gain,
Yeah.
the way you impact other people, that stuff stays.
Look, exactly. It leaves a mark.
So it's almost like investing in wisdom. It's not just about you, it's about everyone.
It's about the future. Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
We talked about how society kind of pushes us in one direction.
Toward wealth.
Yeah, and how they can make us forget about the importance of thinking for ourselves.
Right. Critical thinking is so important.
And then there's that whole thing about, like, what real research even is.
Oh, yeah. Just because you Googled something.
Right, doesn't mean you're an expert.
Not even close.
We talked about money and how it can sometimes influence, what we see in science.
Yeah, the whole follow the money thing.
Yeah, how education isn't always about, like, just getting a degree.
It's about learning how to think.
Right. And we even went all the way back to Norse mythology.
With Odin and the runes.
Yeah, to see how far people will go for knowledge.
It's pretty wild.
But I think the biggest thing I'm taking away from all this
Yeah.
is that wisdom, it's not something that just happens to you.
You have to choose it.
Exactly.
Every single day.
It's like a commitment you make.
To keep learning, to keep growing.
And to understand the world around us a little bit better.
And that's not always easy,
But definitely not.
but it's worth it.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I'd love to hear what you all think about this whole wealth versus wisdom thing.
What stuck with you?
Did anything in particular resonate?
Hit us up on social media. Let's keep the conversation going.
Because who knows? Maybe this is just the start of a much bigger journey.
The journey of wisdom.
Keep those brains working, folks, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Yeah.